Yo, welcome back to the Transfer Portal CFB presented by No Context CFB. Big week 2 preview day, and we're going to touch on some NFL draft stuff, of course, because we have NFL.com's Eric Edholm with me today. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing all right, man. Yeah, we got as good a slate as we usually have a pretty good week 2 slate in college football, but this is pretty darn good. And week 1 I thought was solid across the board, if not spectacular in some cases. So we're all set here, man. How was your week 1?
I mean, I look, I thought it was just all right, and then Sunday night and Monday night happened
Yeah,
and flipped the switch and it became a very good week 1, especially
recency
for
bias from me.
yes.
That's what it is. Yeah.
It became very good due to some of my takes and everything and how
Good.
those look. Let's not overreact after one game, but the Duke brand is looking strong right now, and the fade LSU this year is also looking pretty good. But again, 1 week in, we got week 2 up now, and I almost keep the ball rolling week after week. But we have you on. What we always gotta do when you're on is talk some NFL drafts. That's just
Let's
that's
do
just
it.
how it
Yeah.
goes. Last year, what was it, early September, which is about the time it is now, September 5th. You said Tyree Wilson, Texas Tech. This guy's gonna shoot up draft boards, get to know the name now. Give us some names this year. I'll give you a few of mine
Oh,
as well, of course.
I feel like the pressure has been raised, right? I mean, if I don't come up with a top 10 selection despite an injury, right? I mean, that's got to be the kind of hit I get on this year. Yeah, it's really a better year at offensive line, I think, than what we saw last year. I mean, there was some quality offensive linemen in last year's group. I think this year's going to be better. I you know if you're looking for kind of the sexier options, obviously guys like Olufashanu is everyone knows about him. I mean, not everybody, but anybody who follows the draft knows he could have come out a year ago and probably been, if
Yeah.
not the highest ranked, taken draft offensive lineman in the draft last year. Then he would have been number 2, if not. So not going out on a stretch there. I would say, with the underclassmen this year, Fashanu is going to be the biggest one. But, keep an eye on some of the Georgia guys. Obviously Tate Ratledge is a really good player who I think has gotten a little, lost in the shuffle. Cedric Van Pran too. Um, certainly J.C. Latham at Alabama has a chance to be a really high pick. I'm trying to think of somebody. I guess for your magazine, I picked on the defensive side, Adisa Isaac. I thought he had a nice first game, at least what I saw. I didn't get to see the whole game, so maybe I'll double down on that pick as well. I think that both lines of scrimmage should have some pretty good talent in this year's class.
This draft is just loaded. I think someone else that I forget if I had him in the first round of the magazine. I believe I had him in like the way too early one right after the 2023 draft was Joe
Mm-hmm.
Alt's sidekick, Blake Fisher. I think he's
Yeah.
very underrated at Notre Dame. He's a really good offense lineman. Look out for.
Yep.
I mean the talent there is just endless. Obviously, Riley Leonard guy, and I deeply regret from the second that we published that magazine, not having him in the first round. I so disappointed in myself. So disappointed.
Don't be too hard on yourself, man.
No, I have
This
to
is
be.
like
I have to be. He's been my QB3 since last November. I've got now you're seeing the
okay.
ESPN
That's
guys are
different.
riding the train too. Like I had to I had like I had to plant my flag and I didn't. So I regret that deeply.
I understand. It's a tough chore, man, especially this year, right? I mean, last year I felt like it was kind of easier to hone in on one or of 2 or 3 guys because the field just wasn't as deep. And maybe
Mhm.
this year there were guys like Quinn Ewers who got a little bit more national attention on that in that regard, or JJ McCarthy or somebody like that. So there were other players out there I thought who probably unfairly took away from Riley's talent. But yeah, I mean it's almost like a Will Levis plus type of prospect where you say, wow, athletically speaking, passes all the, checks all the boxes. You see him throw. I think the field vision is there. I think the touch is there. The placement on downfield balls is there. I thought he played a really composed game against a Clemson defense, and obviously
That
the
defense is
skill to outrun a
disgusting.
corner.
That was
Yeah,
not only that he beats the second and third levels of the defense like that, but Clemson's front seven is absolutely loaded too, and all those behemoths are screaming at him on that 44-yard touchdown run, and he is like bounced off them like 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage like it was nothing.
unbelievable, right? Yeah, I mean, if there's a player who has a chance to crack the top two outside of the usual suspects like the Drake Mays and the Caleb Williamses or whatever, if you want to include some of those other guys I mentioned, maybe in the second tier, if you will. If there's a guy who has a chance, I think it's absolutely Riley Leonard and Graham Barton. You know, his teammate is a good player
He's
who I think
elite
will
too, yeah.
yeah, he'll draft off of
He
what
needs to
the
be like a
attention paid
top
to
50
Riley.
pick for sure.
I think so. Possible late one. Yep. It very, very well could be.
And I think the thing with Riley is too, how many people came impressed with that performance the other day against Clemson, and yet me being like such a big Duke truther this year and big Riley guy is Duke did not their offense was not on. It was not clicking. We didn't see their vertical passing game at all. We didn't see Leonard have to throw downfield and just show off that elite ball placement on vertical routes and everything. And that's scary to think about is when that gets going,
Yep.
that team's going to be nasty. I some other guys I would like to point out,
Yeah.
Newbin and Wally at Minnesota, two fantastic DBs. And then the Pac-12, Jacob Cowing. I think we could be looking at some Zay Flowers level hype there. And
Ooh.
I was expecting Jacob Cowing to be like a early second rounder in 2023. It doesn't happen. Maybe a little similar Jared Verse vibes there, where I'm thinking I'm so high on that guy going high in 2023. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It'll just happen in 2024. And then another guy is Washington State corner Shaw Smith Wade.
Oh,
I think we're talking. I think he's unbelievably underrated. Like I would look at him as a potential first round pick, late first round, like top 50 pick. I talked to Dayon Henley about him. Obviously, he's balling out with the Chargers in preseason. He'll be a good linebacker for him.
sure is.
He told me Shaw is a pure baller, instinctive, versatile. He's combative in the run game, and he's set for one of the biggest seasons of his life. He's going to be one of the best players in the Pac-12.
Well, good for you for being on him and getting an original quote from one of his teammates too. I mean, it's good work right there. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's funny the Pac-12. Not funny. I mean, it's just interesting how the Pac-12 has kind of come in the spotlight this year and become the conference that I think is going to get a lot of attention come draft time. And to the point where people were excited about what DJU did the other day and no longer calling him the colossal bust and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that this is going to be really interesting to see how much the Pac-12 can kind of infiltrate this draft as the state of the conference is being blown to smithereens.
It's really sad that it took until the conference dying off that people were like, "Oh shoot, they actually play incredibly
Yeah,
elite levels of football out west." Who would have thought? I'm really happy for DJ too, and I think at worst, like I don't, he'll have a job in the CFL at worst, which is good because I don't know if people would have thought that after the Clemson debacle, which again
yeah,
just wasn't his fault. And we see that with Cade Klubnik, and I don't know if we want to get into that, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I will say this. I've talked to NFL personnel people about Clemson prospects in recent years. And I'm not talking about, the Deshaun Watsons and T. Higgins, like the elite guys, but some of the ones who, come with just a little bit more questions, but at some of those crucial offensive positions, whether it's left tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, especially. And there's the question about whether the Clemson offense does anything to kind of prepare some of these prospects for what they're going to see in the NFL. The sheer breadth of things, the simplicity of that offense often hinders players, especially, Clemson, as you know, for a long time had the kind of the 3-year plan. Guys would come in, they would set their academic schedule to, graduate early, declare early. They would be on this early path. Several did it, including Watson. And it may be kind of hindering some of their growth. Obviously some deserve to come out and would be silly staying in school, but it you have to be as prepared mentally as you are physically. And NFL teams are starting to realize, hey, look, we're getting some of these guys, and maybe we're having to do extra chalk work to get them up to speed because their offense, their terminology isn't translating and it isn't sinking in the way we need it to. In some cases, that's not universal, but that's something that I've heard brought up before.
No, I think that makes complete sense because again, when DJ's getting slandered in years past at Clemson for not living up to, Clemson standards for a quarterback,
Right.
and then we see what just happened against Duke, where moments before kickoff, Dabo's being interviewed by ESPN and says, "Yeah, we brought Garrett Riley in, but it's not to like run his own offense; it's to run our offense, the Clemson offense." Like that's an immediate red flag. I don't like hearing that. Now I feel bad for Cade Klubnik because I think he's a much more capable quarterback. And the unfortunate thing here is all the people that were hating on DJ that are now saying like apologize to DJ are the same ones that are now ripping Cade, and it ain't his fault. So and I just don't think Clemson does a good job of developing their receivers either. And they kind of pinpoint this thing where they're looking for 6'2" and up, jump ball threats, 50-50 ball guys, but they don't separate. And then
Absolutely.
and they don't develop these kids anyway. So like if I'm a recruit, why would I want to go play offense at Clemson right now? It's such an
It's a
unattractive
fair question.
situation.
It's a fair question. I mean, look, it's shocking to think that after all the especially receivers and whatnot. I mean, and wide receivers you pointed. I mean, and quarterbacks as you pointed out too. It's crazy to think that running backs for that matter. I mean, boy, is this a place that we can sort of consider that to be the case anymore? And you're right. I mean, whether Antonio Williams or Collins or any of these guys, the separation was surprising. For years they had the 6'2" plus guys who could run 4.4 and below it, or even low 4.5s and below with that size. But man, I saw guys who were covered by Duke secondary. I saw a quarterback in Klubnik who was making good decisions in the read option game and making some headway there, but at times getting hit in the backfield, at times, not having options after his first read, just kind of looking a little bit frustrated out there. And yeah, it kind of lends to all the points I think we've just laid out.
So I want to do one thing before we go into players and watching game picks and stuff. Let's put out like two risers that we could see happening. I'll use Shaw Smith Wade as one of mine. Who's one guy that you would say will rise up the boards and really surprise people this season in the pre-draft process?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think of somebody who's, I think we can call a true riser.
Yeah,
You
but you'll
know,
want to do what some of the others do and just say
I guess
guys
I don't know.
already
Is
so up.
Keon Coleman a riser? Would you even put
I
him in that category? I mean,
I mean 3 days ago we would have, right?
yeah, right. That's kind of how I was thinking. Like, I in the same way that everybody knows Shadur Sanders' name now, I think they're going to start to get to know Keon Coleman after for his big game, and obviously Johnny Wilson had a few plays too, but Coleman is fascinating. I think he just moves a little bit better and has a little bit more fluidity to his game. Not that Wilson isn't a tremendous sort of mismatch guy, but yeah, I mean he looked very much at home in that offense. He demanded the ball in a couple spots. I thought that was really impressive. So, again, is how much of a riser is he truly going to be? I don't know, but yeah, I think that's worth mentioning right there. Maybe I'm trying to think of somebody who's not totally obvious, but give me a position. Maybe that'll, or I guess I was going to say either Braylon Trice, maybe from Washington. It's hard for me to know also like what players people know already,
Yeah.
especially even like the hardcore draft folks versus the ones that, they're just starting to get familiar with. But Trice is a big dude who I think has all the physical traits to make it. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think he could be a power end, even if those aren't all the rage right now. I think that in the right system, he's going to be a great fit.
I think that's a good call because he's one of the key reasons I really like Washington's team and kind
Mm-hmm.
of I get confused when people see SC as a better team because The offenses are pretty even. Washington just has a better defense. Trice leads they have two really good edge rushers, and then they have a third, Zach Durfee, a transfer from Sioux Falls, who's not eligible. He's in the same. He's waiting for eligibility. He's in the same like situation that Devontae Walker is in. So I mean, raising awareness on that situation. I was talking to him today actually, and he said
Oh wow.
he was at NDSU and he was just a student. It was COVID year 2020. He was just a student at NDSU, not on the football team or anything. Transfers to Sioux Falls, walks on to play football, blows up, outrageous talent. Now he's at Washington, and he's ineligible to play because he's somehow a two-time transfer. he was in class all the time at NDSU. It's wild.
In an era where it feels like, transfer eligibility is a foregone conclusion, that sounds kind of wild to me. But, there still are compliance people out there who take their jobs pretty seriously and,
Yeah.
are going to go through every last little detail. So, yeah, you feel bad for kids like that who, wasn't even on the radar until not that long
Last
ago.
year, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think someone else that I don't. So Devon Banks, a corner on Washington, I was high on him last year. He didn't like break out or anything, but then he played a dominant week one against Boise State and it's looking like he could be a shutdown CB1 for Washington. So like
Yep.
I think he could be a legit draft prospect. I don't know if he would enter this year though. And my brain just keeps thinking Pac-12, like Benjamin Urosek, again, another guy that could have been the loaded
Yeah.
tight end class last year, and he's looking like he's in a revitalized Stanford offense that actually is fun and has some life in it. And he had 9 for 138 and a touchdown against Hawaii. He's going to be a big piece of that offense. Did you see the fact his great grandpa invented the baby carrot?
No, is that right? Oh gosh, you
Yeah.
just gave me one of my nuggets here. Those are the things I look for, right? As much as we love, breaking down the tape and the measurables and the workout times and stats and everything like that. I do love the human element stories and I love cool things like that. My grandfather was an inventor, not a particularly successful one, but he did invent the Dixie ice crusher. I don't even know if that is still a thing, but apparently it once was. So I've been told that we should be proud of grandfather Wilbur Edholm back in the day. So I have a soft spot for inventors.
Like I saw that pop up on the broadcast, the baby carrot thing, and that was
Wow.
my mind was blown because like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was on Wikipedia and I looked up baby carrots because I heard someone say I was watching something. I heard someone say, "Do you know like baby carrots aren't even like a real thing? Like they cut off or whatever." I'm like, my mind is blown. Like there's no way. I just thought these things were sprouting out the ground. I look up the
Little
baby carrot
carrots.
on
Yeah.
Wikipedia. I don't even like it didn't like I see Eurosek's name, I guess, as the inventor. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even connect the dots. And then like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I'm seeing that on CBS Sports Network.
How crazy. Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, and you think, okay, is it truly inventing something if you're just kind of reshaping another thing? I don't know if that's a thing, but everybody knows what a baby carrot looks like. We tend to buy those. It's a lot easier than to get those than the shaving off the big
Yeah,
ones and everything. So credit where it's due, man. A baby carrot,
I guess that intelligence had to go somewhere because Ben gets to
Right.
Stanford.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm in full support of that one. Yeah.
I'll for my other riser though, I'll go. Dude, I'm using it for my player focus too. But Deontay Lawson, linebacker at Alabama, I think he's
Oh
going to
yeah.
blow up this year. I think he should be a surefire first round pick. I think a top 20 guy. And we finally got to, he's going to be the leader of that defense too. And I think that Alabama team, I ranked them number one entering the year. He's going to be an integral part of the defense's success. And what I really liked against MTSU is we got to see him just line up off the edge too and rush the passer, which is going to add some value to his game. So I think he's someone that people need to really buy in on. He's versatile, he's fast, he's just highly intelligent, very good player with high level of instincts and smarts and again, a good vocal leader. So he'll win a lot of people over, especially in the pre-draft process with his interviews and stuff. I think I haven't heard the guy give an interview, but I'm just projecting. He's gonna win in interviews and stuff. So That'll be
Yeah.
my other riser slash first player focus guy.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Alabama's an interesting team this year. I mean, they've got enough established talent with guys like Latham and Dallas Turner and
Kool-Aid.
who not and whoever. They lost a ton, but this is still Alabama. I think everybody just kind of turning the page and assuming, okay, Georgia's taking them over, is being a little bit short-sighted. So yeah, guys like Lawson and Jaheim Otis and other guys up, kind of those sophomores, redshirt sophomores, some of the younger guys who are just getting to play. I think now that's when you realize, oh yeah, they're stocked with 4 and 5-star talent, and we can't just move on from these guys.
We cannot. So for player focus guys that you're looking at this week, who's someone that you're looking for a big performance to this week, or you're eager to see what they have?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Hartman would be a pretty good one. Obviously, you could probably pick both quarterbacks in that game. We've seen really good execution from Hartman early on, and he's one of those guys that it's hard not to like him when you watch him, right?
Yeah.
Very efficient, very comfortable, looks like he's taking a lot of snaps, doesn't get rattled, you know, perfect, good enough build, I would say, enough athleticism, not special in those ways, doesn't have a rocket arm, but throws with enough, I think, muster to get it in there and be, on par with some NFL quarterbacks. But is there a special quality to his game? Is there, that X factor that's going to get excite scouts? Is he just destined to be kind of that, somewhere between the 75th and 150th pick? I don't know. I think the Notre Dame thing will help him. I think it absolutely gives him a little bit bigger stage and some better competition. Going what are they at NC State? Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and at NC State this weekend, I want to say. So yeah, after 2 weeks of warm-ups, I think you'd argue, right? The first game in Dublin and last week. I mean, this is going to be a step up in competition. So he's a player that I want to just see how comfortable is he, right? How dangerous can he be on the road in a against a better quality opponent?
Yeah, I think that's a good call. So again, Deontay Lawson's one of mine that I'm using. Maybe I'll switch that for a
Yep.
graphic. I don't know. The other one though, this one's bad because you're not gonna know this guy, and
All right.
nobody listening is gonna know this guy. If anyone knows him, I'll be stunned. He played his first career college football game last week for South Dakota State. Wide receiver Griffin Wilde. He played two ways in high school. He played wide receiver, and I
Okay.
believe DB, had a few interceptions. Went for I think he caught 100 balls in his junior and senior years, is what the Jackrabbits website said. He had 4 catches,
Gotcha.
79 receiving yards, and a touchdown in his first career game last week. South Dakota State, arguably the best team in the FCS, playing a top 3 team in Montana State this week. Let's see what this kid Griffin Wilde's guy. 6'2", like 190, vertical threat. Obviously a high level athlete. He's good after the catch. I mean, dude, this is bad because I nobody know who this guy is.
I
And
mean, hey,
like, what is this? Like 2026, maybe 2027 draft we'd be looking at.
look, that's why you do what you do, man. I mean, that's that you have a different perspective on these things that a lot of people do. And heck, I'm trying to remember. You talked about what was Kay Johnson, I think was one of them, and I'm trying to remember some of the other smaller school guys that you told me about before anybody considered them NFL prospects. But yeah, I mean that's great. I think it's important to get some of those lesser known names a little bit of shine, right? I mean, especially when they play at a lower level. I think we've seen that FCS teams can beat FBS teams,
Mhm.
go on the road and have success. So hey, keep bringing those names, man. I won't remember all of them, but I'll remember that you had them first. So
Again, that one's just way out there. That's bad even
yeah,
for my standards.
I'm not judging you at all on that one. Do I need one more from me? Is that
Yeah,
right? All right, let's go. Is it Arizona is playing Mississippi State this week, right?
rematch of last year. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to go Jordan Morgan in this one then. I mean, he's an
Mm.
interesting player who I think is, obviously the athletic traits are really interesting. Super long kid. Trying to think who he may have reminded me of in last year's class. I'd like to see him, that he's coming off the torn ACL. So obviously you want to see a guy move well. You want to see if he's still got that lateral quickness. You don't worry so much about forward and backward with the ACL, but how well they move side to side. His pass blocking, I think, is going to be his calling card at the next level. He feels like a Senior Bowl type candidate, assuming he, keeps showing what he's shown in the past and that the injury hasn't affected him. Really nice light feet, good balance, doesn't overset, doesn't get beat a lot inside. But Mississippi State's got some guys up front that I think could at least challenge him with speed. They'll stunt, they'll twist, different things like that. So pretty good test. I think that's a prospect that, even in what could be a deeper offensive tackle class, especially compared to last year, even if he gets lost a little bit, I think we're still talking about a top 50 player here and maybe a first rounder if he puts it all together this year.
I think that's a really good call. I've seen a lot of people that are high in them, and the whole Senior Bowl angle, I think you hit it right on the head. I think he's just destined to be there. Let's
Yeah.
get into some game picks now. We're gonna do,
All
of
right.
course, 10 of them. I don't know the records yet. It's too early to care about that stuff. We've got Notre Dame at North Carolina State to start things off. Personally, I'm
Yep.
going to be taking Notre Dame. I'm just not really in on that NC State team. I don't really get the preseason hype that they've had. They were kind of at the top of the table of the preseason predictions in the ACC. I don't see it. I think they got two really good DBs though, in A and White and Shaheem Battle. A and White's another guy I would look at as a possible riser, but they
Yep.
did not move the needle at all against UConn. And albeit it's starting your season on the road on a Thursday night, you still got to move the needle against UConn though. And the offense didn't look like it was clicking. Just give me Notre Dame here. Like Benjamin Morrison too is going to explode at some point this season. Maybe it's this week. Oh shoot! Also, true freshman running
Yeah.
back for Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. He's going to be an outstanding player. He's already like in there and carving it up, and just his footwork's disgusting. He's going to be a big time player.
Yeah, I kind of lean Notre Dame as well. I think they'll have enough to kind of to just stay, ahead of Mississippi State in this game. And I mean, I'm sorry, of NC State. Sorry, I was thinking previously we were talking Mississippi State, but yeah, I mean, you're right. I feel like NC State is one of those programs I keep wanting to elevate a little higher than they deserve to go. Or I keep thinking, all right, this is trending upward. They're in the right direction, but I didn't get to see a lot of that first game. It's hard for me to really comment on it, but yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, I think Notre Dame, it's also easy to overgraduate them, right? To put them
Mm-hmm.
beyond where they deserve to be, and based on what we've seen in recent years, and Brian Kelly not there and all that. But yeah, I mean, I still feel like this is a game they win, and maybe turn in an impressive performance defensively too.
Yeah, Notre Dame's got a tough few games coming up. I'll foreshadow. I think they'll beat Ohio State. I think Ohio State's got some serious
Good.
issues. And
Sure.
I think they'll lose immediately after to the powerhouse that is Duke.
Wow, that's the
I'm gonna
team.
keep
You're all
planting
in.
the flag on Duke, man. Again,
Good for you.
I am preseason tops. I am preseason number 17, number 12 for me now. I just we shouldn't really be talking about Duke during game picks. So we're talking about elite quarterback, elite left tackle, elite head coach, three solid receivers,
Two
and
running
then
backs. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then their front seven's pretty good. They have a really good linebacker in Dorian Mousey, and then defensive backs. There's like 6, 7 legit playable guys that they have. So game picks here and everything, but again, stop sleeping on Duke. Someone that y'all can't sleep on anymore is what Deion Sanders is doing at Colorado. Colorado is
Yep.
hosting Nebraska here. I'm gonna go with Colorado, but I think it's too early to rank them. I think it's just an overreaction to beating a pretty mediocre TCU team that lost a lot in an extremely mediocre Big 12 conference. I think I ranked Washington State. I didn't rank Colorado this week. I think if you look around the Pac 12, there's just better options to rank than Colorado. the first time that I think it's fair to rank Colorado is going to be after the Oregon game. I don't care if they win or lose as long as they look very competitive and they put up a good fight. Then I'll
Right.
rank Colorado. Let's see the sample size here. And I mean, they still have so much talent, of course. And Sean Lewis, after one game, is looking like he'll get his Power Five head coaching job immediately after his one
Absolutely.
game. People are jumping on the bandwagon. I thought he was going to have it after Kent State last season, but they just didn't. They weren't
Yeah.
able to. They weren't on the lucky side of things. A lot of like health went bad and injuries and stuff. So Sean Lewis, man, is doing. He did a very good job of masking the lesser talent on their offensive line in week one. I think he'll be able to do it in week two. I don't know about what's going
Yep.
to happen in Pac-12 play, but yeah, I'll take Colorado here.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Sean Lewis. I mean, think about the three guys who planted their flag, right? I know you're going to do that for the small school guys and for Duke and everything, but Colorado, it was Shador, right? Put his best foot forward, a terrific game. It was Travis Hunter, who, I think people knew the name from a couple years ago, the big
Mm-hmm.
upset going to Jackson State on signing day. I'm guessing people may have seen a highlight or two from him, like the casual fans and stuff, but you know, from them going to, well, he's going to play some receiver and play some corner to playing 150 snaps in a game and having a pick and 100 yards receiving. That's incredible. That
Not
puts you
just the
immediately in the Heisman.
interception. That
Yeah,
interception was outrageous.
outrageous. Can he catch the more catchable balls? That's what I'm
I
wondering
think
about.
he
That's the
can.
one thing
I
he
think he
can.
can. I think his ball skills are like. I think if he was on like Madden or NCAA or something, they would put his ball skills at a rating higher than 99. I think it's that
Wow.
good.
Okay.
I think that we're gonna see. We haven't even seen the best of him. As someone who like low key did watch Jackson State the last few years because of Shador,
Right.
because of Dion, because of Travis. I've seen some of what that kid is capable of, and I don't even think we got close to one of the best performances he'll have in a Colorado uniform. Yeah, he hasn't even
I
touched
agree.
the surface, which is scary to think about.
I mean, right. People referencing Chris Gamble and players like that. There's something there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I loved your point about Sean Lewis too. I thought what an incredible hire,
Yeah,
and what faith it took for him to give up the job he had. Good job, right? Or job that a lot of people would want, I think, in this business, knowing that it could have been a step stone, but instead he's going to use the
the bigger
spotlight on this
platform
program.
as a lower
Yeah, man.
role. Yeah, I think it was
And
a very good job by Dion and his guys to like pinpoint Sean Lewis as his guy to get this job done at CU. I think that was it was one of the most underrated moves in the entirety of college football, whether it was coaching carousel or transfer portal realignment. I don't care. It was
absolutely.
massive.
Yep. No question about it. And another point I just wanted to make too, you mentioned how they seem to negate their shortcomings in the offensive line. I thought they did it with the defensive line
Yeah.
too. That for me was the biggest worry coming into the weekend was, are they going to get run over for 400 yards? So that worries me a little going forward, but based on one game, I can't go any other direction but pick Colorado. I thought the line might be a little bigger, but I'm shocked that Nebraska is actually getting a little bit of respect in this, considering
It's moved a
everything that's
little
happened.
because Nebraska was originally the favorite, and then after Colorado did that to TCU, the odds
True,
makers are like, "All right, we got to do something
true.
here. We know the Colorado steam is too much." And one last point: Sean Lewis does a very good job of just getting multiple guys the ball. He's always feeding multiple running backs and multiple receivers. So we saw four receivers go. We saw four just players because one was true freshman running back Dylan Edwards go for 100 plus receiving yards in the first game of Sean Lewis's tenure at Colorado. It's the same stuff he did at Kent State where you had multiple receivers, like most recently Devontae Walker, Dante Stevens. They're both eating. Both the running backs, Xavier Williams and Marquez Cooper, were always eating, and the quarterback was always happy.
Yep. Yep. That's it. I can't remember 400-yard receivers. I remember a couple years ago we had a game with three 100-yard receivers in a game in the NFL, and I don't remember a 400 4 100-yard receiving game in a college game ever, but I'm sure it's happened. It's an incredible feat week one. So maybe we do need to pump the brakes, but yeah, man, let's ride. Anybody picking Nebraska this week has got some onions, and I respect that, but man, I can't go there.
Especially, we didn't even touch on Nebraska and what we just witnessed week one, a classic Big Ten
It
West
was
game.
lame. Yeah, it felt like they didn't show up. So yeah.
Ole Miss at Tulane is next, though. I've got to admit, I was wrong. I thought Tulane would start the year 1-2. I guess they still can, potentially 0-3. I thought South Alabama would really go out there and take it to them.
A lot
That
of people
wasn't the
did.
case. It wasn't the
Yep.
case at all. South Alabama was out my top 25 instantly. Called them possibly the most complete group of five team, offense and defense. The offense didn't live up to what I thought they could do, and the defense really got carved. I mean, we're talking about Michael Pratt, who was 14 and 15. He threw for like 300 yards. He threw for 4 touchdowns. Anything he wanted over at the top of the defense, he had. It was as simple as that. It was like I guess it was like when you're younger and like your parent puts the cookie jar up at the top, but it actually wasn't even that hard to reach, and that's just what it was. It was just so easy to reach downfield over and over again. And
Yeah.
I was wrong, but I'm still taking Ole Miss here.
Yeah. I see why. I mean, as efficient as Pratt was, there's obviously been a little bit of a shift in their offensive philosophy with Spears not there, and it was I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was more of a committee approach with
Shoddy Clayton
Hughes and
Johnson's
Lewis.
one of the guys that I think will be a piece there. He didn't do much
Okay.
week one, but
Yep. Pratt is part of the run game, obviously, too, and they can throw to multiple guys. I think three different guys caught touchdown
mhm.
passes. So, but Ole Miss's talent. I mean, and it's not just the underclassmen too. They have a lot of seniors. I think who are a lot of transfers, a lot of new faces. How it's all going to kind of work together is going to be interesting. But yeah, I would give them the edge in this one. I think they'll. I don't want to say it. I think they can win. Tulane has some losses on their schedule, and I have this as one of them. So I think it's a good win for Ole Miss if they do win, though. I think you
It looks
count it
good.
as a quality win. Yep.
It does look good. Also, let's see if Sakari Franklin plays this week because he got hurt like what in August or something, which is
He
super
did.
unfortunate. But
Yep.
Trey Harris, another just underrated for transfer addition. He looked really good for him. He had a hat trick of touchdowns very early on. Our next game is going to be. It was so bad last year. It can't possibly be as bad this year. It's Texas A&M at Miami, Florida, who is now the real Miami after taking it to the Miami up in Oxford. I'm going with A&M here simply
Yeah.
because I'm still not buying in on Miami. I also like, yeah, it's a home game, but their fan support is just so bad. It just is like they need their own stadium. They need a raucous environment, and they're never getting that Hard Rock. It's such a shame because the U should
Yeah.
have they should have a top tier environment. They don't have that. That stinks. So give me A&M here and Evan Stort. I mean, what 2025 draft? We're talking about him as a top 10 guy, 100%. That guy is so good at this sport. It this sport, he's just gifted. The sport just looks too easy for him.
Who was the player that you said it's too easy for him?
Evan Stort, A&M receiver.
Oh, right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, A&M is a tough team to trust after last year, right?
Yeah,
You just
that's a
sort of
fair
feel like,
point.
boy, it's like I don't want to give him too much credit, but I don't want to cut him short either, and I don't want to underestimate, what they're capable of doing. But yeah, I hear you, man. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke is one of those players that I can't quit. I'm not ready to give up on yet, but I also understand he's got some work to do. And they ran the ball effectively week one. That's a nice development. I just don't know if I'm that excited. I mean, I had Connor Weigman as one of my Heisman sleepers. Like this was going to be like, okay, let's take a pick out of left field, and he's one of them, right? He's got the running ability. Obviously, we know we can throw it. We saw, or a taste of that. I think kind of like your Pratt with Tulane, obviously a little better competition, but similar numbers, right? He only threw the ball 20 times and had a few touchdowns there. But what I saw last year impressed me. I thought it was good. I mean, Josh DeBerry week one had a great game. I think A&M's got enough defensive talent. Um, Cooper had 3 sacks, I think, in the first game. They had multiple or 3 tackles for loss, I should say. And, just enough defensive talent to give great point too on the home field advantage, the lack thereof. I have a few friends who are in that Miami Hurricane circle. They're big supporters of the program. They're close to the action, and their frustration with some of that stuff has been going on for 15, 20 years. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely a part of it.
it's very similar to UCLA and the Rose Bowl and how like I don't know if the bandwagony, I guess, because at least when UCLA is good, fans will show up to
Right.
some extent. But like Miami, it feels like there's always empty seats and get people leaving early. Petrino's big for A&M as well. That was a big hire. They don't look to be
Yeah.
playing dinosaur football anymore, which is really promising to see. And then someone on Miami, I didn't watch too much of the Miami Bowl. I was
I
focused
didn't
on
either.
some other stuff, but one of our guys, Matt, that's with the transfer portal, see if he was raving about Mark Fletcher, a true freshman running back.
Wow.
So let's
Okay.
keep an eye on him and see I think he's like a 4-star recruit. So see how he fares this week and beyond. Our next game, I guess it's a big one. It was good last year. It's Texas at Alabama. That's a game that's happening, and I expect Alabama to take it to them. They're on their
Yeah.
home field here. Last year was quite embarrassing for them. Yeah, they win, but it wasn't in Alabama fashion.
Yeah.
I think Alabama and Saban are really going to just physically overwhelm Texas here. I just think what I really like about this Alabama team is that Saban has realized that flashy kind of quarterback play wasn't really working for him because it wasn't bringing him national championships time and time again. It's not bringing them the old dynasty. So I recognize that. And I'm seeing he wants to go back to that like mid 2010 stuff, the early 2010s, mid 2010s, like game manager quarterback stuff. Just take what the defense gives you, run the ball. Our offense line's just gonna move dudes out the way, run the ball at a high level with a good committee, and our quarterback could run too. Jalen Milroe could obviously a sensational athlete, and he's going to be able to throw a little bit too, but he's not going to be asked to do it like at such a preposterous level. It's just going to be let's take what the defense gives me. Let's run the ball. Let's overwhelm teams and let's just move the ball and win like we did in the 2010s. I think it's going to be hilarious. That's going to work for Nick Saban in 2023 when everyone's moving ahead to we're trying to drop 60 on you. Alabama's just going to
Yeah.
say if we drop 30 on you, this game is over.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, you think about that kind of approach and how it might work this week against Sark, who's, got a reputation of being a very smart coach, but also one who, doesn't always have everything kind of buttoned up and right. And there's this question about whether he can get all this talent on the same page and make it all work. And we know, Xavier Worthy and Mitchell and Sanders at tight end and even losing the 2 running backs, Quinn Ewers is a talent. I watched a little of that game this past weekend, and it took them a little while, especially the pressure on Ewers. Ewers took a few sacks, to kind of get comfortable before they really turned it on in that game. So, slightly unimpressive first 2.5 quarters, and then they showed a little dominance. That worries me a little bit because the talent suggests that this should be a little bit of a better team than what we've seen, or what the expectations are there for a
Mm-hmm.
reason. So I can't go against Alabama in this one, even if this feels like a year where a lot of people will make that pick. A lot of people are saying, okay, this is Texas' chance. They had their opportunity last year. They missed it. This is the game they pull it out. I'm not one of those people. I'm like you. I think I don't know that they kill them the way you say, but I think they can win by 10 points or something like that and make it a two-score game and and take the air out of the ball.
I think Saban's gonna get him by 15 plus. I think he's really
Okay.
gonna yeah, I think he's gonna I think that this could look real ugly real quick.
Mm,
On Texas's side though, Kellen Banks has a really massive opportunity because he's going up some outstanding players in Alabama's front seven, so that's gonna be
yep.
cool to see. And then Cadlon, I just really want to see him kind of revitalize his career after his injuries and stuff. I like him a
Yep.
lot. I would love to see him like I I don't know where we'd be talking about him in the NFL draft if it is like round four stuff. I think
That's
he
what I
could,
was thinking.
yeah, like I think he could carve out a really strong NFL career as like a day three pick. And then Xavier Worthy, I need to see a lot from. I didn't watch the game against Rice, but I I did not like his 2022 season at all. There were so many concentration drops and just like low effort plays that I can't like call him a top five receiver in the sport like I don't think he'd be in my top 10. So I need to see a lot from Xavier Worthy. People are calling him like one of the best receivers in the draft. I just don't see eye to eye with that. I don't know. I gotta see a lot from him, man.
Yeah, I think there enough questions in his game where I think you say to yourself, like maybe this is one of those prospects that gets overhyped at Texas because there are every year. I feel like that school and even some of the bigger ones too. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, I'm with you on Worthy. I always sort of felt like day two talent.
Yeah, he's like a
You
round
know,
three guy, I would think, and you
yeah,
take the flyer, and if it hits, then really good job. You struck gold in round three. Like that's good.
absolutely. No, there's plenty of those guys who and this year is maybe the depth is back at that position too. So that maybe it's round four, maybe it's round two. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I think there's some things worked against them last year, but absolutely, I don't see him as some polished, pristine prospect.
We'll go Oregon at Texas Tech next. I'm gonna keep this one quick. I'm going with Oregon. They scored 81 last week. I don't care who they played. That's nuts to think about. Passing in with Bo Nix is going to be lethal. I think their
Yeah.
defense is really good. Johnny Cornelius on the offensive line transfer from Rhode Island, versatile. I think he's a really good player. Texas Tech, we had people
What
talking
happened, man?
about them everywhere as like it's pretty much what NC State was last year. It's the same kind of sleeper pick, like, oh, they can make the playoff. It's crazy. NC State last year, week one, barely beats East Carolina because Owen Daffer couldn't kick a field goal. And then this year, Texas Tech gets whooped after by Wyoming after starting up 17-0. And it's like you have that 17-point cushion and couldn't get it done. I like Texas Tech. If Bayron Morden was their starting quarterback, I will keep shouting that.
Hmm.
I think he is their best option at quarterback. It's the same thing with me talking about LSU and Nussmeier being their top option. If Texas Tech was starting Bayron Morden, I think I would legit pick him. I really would. I think he elevates that team
Uh,
so much, and they would have such a better passing game. They have like 3 or 4 really good receivers. I know I said I'll keep this one quick. I guess I was lying, but give me Oregon here.
I watched a lot of that second half. I saw it as Wyoming was kind of making it a game and starting to come back, and then Tech kind of got the momentum right before overtime, and then obviously everything kind of held back, fell apart at that point for the Raiders. But yeah, I mean it shocked me how much they I wondered how much of it was matchup related and how much of it was trust factor with Tyler Shuck, where they kept calling, quarterback counter, quarterback draw, quarterback lead, all these QB running plays, and Shuck was doing what he could with them. But it made me think, you know, even though they threw the ball quite a bit, it was when they threw and when they run. It made it feel like I don't know that there's complete trust there. I don't know that they feel like this is a guy who's going to be able to, kind of reel this thing in for him. So I don't know. I was left with a little bit of suspicion over what their offense might be this year.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively they did enough to win, but yeah, it was obviously a huge disappointment. And it took me forever. I didn't even think about Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I don't know why I didn't. And then I
That's
saw those
me,
guys
so
tweeting, and I was like, oh yeah, of course, duh, right? But Yeah, I mean, I'm as far as Oregon goes, I just think they're going to be too good a football team, and that the Pac-10 is going to remain a little bit underrated at this point. People aren't going to fully buy in, I don't think, at this point. And maybe they're assuming that Tech bounces back, but yeah, I have to go Oregon big on the road here.
Like I think the Pac-12 legit. There's 11 teams in that conference that I think are well worth the watch every single week, and
Mm,
the one that isn't has an exciting true freshman quarterback in Cameron Scadaboo at running back. So when you have Rashad and Scadaboo, ASU could be fun to watch. I don't think they're worth watching every week though,
I
but
agree.
the
Yeah,
like even Stanford, man, it was fun
even
to
Oregon,
watch, as I
Cal.
said
Yep.
earlier. Cal, I've been trying to warn people, and it didn't even happen because Sam Jackson got hurt, but having Jada not having Jeremiah Hunter is disgusting. Then you throw in Isaiah Fonzie from Montana State, who was at San Jose State, and then was like, okay, wait, I'm just going to go Cal instead. He looked good. The way that they kind of funnel touches to their running backs was really cool to see, and just how their
Hmm.
play style was really fun to watch. And that was a game people were like, North Texas, they might win this. That
Right,
Cal
right.
offense
Yeah.
is so explosive.
What a difference, I mean, just like one year to the next. Like sometimes, we act surprised by these things, but like obviously Colorado is like the gold standard. But that's a great example of another team that can change their stripes. The right system, the right quarterback, the right play calling, and it all kind of comes together, and you say, wow, it's like a whole new team, right? I wish that would happen at Missouri, my alma mater, but it's not yet, not quite yet. So I got to hold
Just
back. But
recruiting every top guy and getting them, no biggie.
yeah, that's true. I'll take that part of it.
One last thing I want to touch on with Tech because I just looked it up on the Twitters. I name searched Bayer and Gordon just to see if there was any news, and this is what I find instead. From Parker Fleming, Stats of War, Tyler Shuck had a clean pocket on 80% of dropbacks against Wyoming, 51.3 grade, 6.8 turnover worthy play rate. You had 80% of dropbacks have a clean pocket, and that's not good. That's the fact that you have that clean of a pocket that often, and that's what you produce is not good. How Texas Tech doesn't identify QB2 Bayer Morn as the guy is beyond me. He's
Yeah.
fearless. He's a gunslinger, and he's gonna he'll have his downs and he'll throw picks, but he's also gonna be scoring a lot. That's what you want.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I mean that. Yeah, he's been there for a while, and maybe he got that starting job just because of the experience. But yeah, you have to factor that in. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just run its course a
it's
little
a
bit.
big revenge game for him, Shuck, who was at Oregon. But we're on to UCF Boise State here. Man, I'm so Boise State coming into this year. I wrote our preview for them for the magazine. I said the ceiling's 11-1. I still
Yep.
stand by that because I just think that they're so above every other team in the Mountain West. And in
Yeah.
their non-conference schedule, Washington's out the way. We don't have to worry about that one anymore. I thought it would have been like 44-30 kind of ball game. It wasn't. All right,
Right.
who cares? Move on. They got smoked. They still have UCF, they still have Memphis in non-conference. Memphis on the road,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. Brutal schedule. So I still think it's like a 11-1 team. If they go 10-2, all right, who cares? I have an issue though. Taylon Green, his best trait is using his legs and running
Correct.
downfield like he's a gazelle. Like that's just what he does. So where was that against Washington? They tried to force him into being a pure pocket passer, which I just don't get. You let his
Yeah.
running win over it, and his passing will complement it. Like it's so simple. So not seeing that from them was really discouraging. There were a lot of drops from receivers. I thought Mike Strong's brother, Prince Strong, I thought he should have got some looks. He's a former gray shirt. I would have got him looks. Their running backs though, Ginty, man, Ashton
He's good.
Ginty, I can't wait to see the capital that he gets in the 2024 NFL draft because he's going to have to leave early after a junior year. And his receiving ability is just too nuts. And then a true freshman who didn't travel for that Washington game, who they're really high on, who I'm really high on, who I think is the second best back in the room, Jambres Dubar. If he gets to play soon, that just brings more excitement to Boise State because he's another NFL capable back. But Okay, so my game pick here is Boise State. As someone as a sicko who watched the entirety of Kent State UCF, especially the first half, Kent State had opportunities to throw on UCF quite often. UCF's pass coverage was really bad. The difference there was Kent State doesn't have talent this year. They are the worst team in the country, so they can't take advantage of that. They can't hit these stars. They had like a 70-yard play that
Yeah.
got called back for holding too. Even at that, like UCF's defense is gonna be bad. So I got Boise State.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick UCF. I don't know. I get the feeling that maybe they're a little bit better. I don't know if I'm giving them. The defense thing is worth asking, and I think it's fair to ask. But yeah, I Boise didn't impress me all that much. It's I thought they played okay the first about 20 minutes of the
Yeah.
game. It felt like they were hanging in there, but also it was all Penix was misfiring early. I know his stats were so big. You think, how is that possible? He missed two touchdown passes essentially. So I felt like Boise got away with some stuff too, which is concerning. So this one may get up there points wise, but yeah, I feel like UCF might just have a little bit more firepower and a little bit more trust in what their offensive system can do. So that's a tough one. I'll go the other way. I feel like I've gone the same way as
Oh
you every
yeah.
single time. So yeah, I'll go the opposite direction this one.
And with Boise State's defense, they have a bunch of like dudes on defense, especially in the secondary. But the issue is they're all on the same level right now where they're on the cusp of breaking out and then becoming like stud players. So they're
Yep.
still learning. So as the year progresses, Boise State's secondary is going to be lethal because they have a bunch of guys like Jalen Clark, like Isai Oladipo. They have dudes.
Tighter Tollus. Yep.
Yeah, like Kanai Kaniho is
Titus
also
Toller. Oh,
like they have guys. It's just they've got a mesh. Our next game, we kind of go quickly, I think, for the last three, so we can get you out of here.
all right.
Montana State at South Dakota State. I'm such a South Dakota State homer, but I also love the Big Sky and everything. I talked about Griffin Wilde as a guy to look for in South Dakota State. Look out for like Isaiah Davis too, Amar Johnson, Mark Gronowski, Zach Hines could be a tight end prospect to look out for. I'm taking South Dakota State here. I ain't going against my Jackrabbits.
Yeah, I was gonna say the rabbits are usually are a pretty safe bet. I have no reason to go against them only because I haven't seen either team place. I don't have a good feel for where they're at, so I'm gonna have to trust you on this one.
Gonna be a good game. Too bad it's at 4 o'clock. There's a lot of good games at 4
Yeah,
p.m.
that's yeah.
PST. Uh, also, that should be on national TV, but FCS early games don't get respect. Whatever.
Deaf ears. Yeah.
Wisconsin, Washington State on deck. Wazoo beat Wisconsin last season.
Yeah.
I don't get the Wisconsin hype, and I haven't all off season. I think the additions of Phil Longo and Tanner Mordecai were vastly blown out of proportion, especially
Oh,
Mordecai.
really? Okay.
I just think Preston Stone's the far better quarterback between the two SMU guys. And I think
Could be.
so. What I've been saying is if Preston Stone, he got in to play at SMU last year because Mordecai got hurt, and first play of Preston Stone's like first start is a 75-yard touchdown throw to Rashee Rice. The two connected instantly against Tulsa. Preston Stone breaks his collarbone that game. He would have taken the QB1 job had he not broken his collarbone. If he doesn't break his collarbone, I don't know where Tanner Mordecai is, but I know he's not at Wisconsin. So I
Probably
just
say the same thing about Max Duggan, right?
like this stuff happens. So I
Yeah.
I really I'm just low on Wisconsin. I think their secondary. I don't think their defense is that good. I don't think their receivers are very good. People are trying to tell me like they have a top 20 offense, they have a top 20 defense. They don't. Phil Longo, Luke Fickle can't get a hold. They can't take this program to the top right away. I
Yeah.
give me Washington State here, who has plenty of receiver talent. Cam Ward's one of the most fun players to watch. The roller coaster
Good
that
point.
is. Their defense is always underrated now.
Yeah, the reaction to week one might have been a little steep on Wisconsin. I mean, if you look what they did, it's some of the same end of the day, still had to lean on Malusi and Allen to move the ball. I mean, their passes were mostly short. They didn't generate those big plays. Mordecai's experienced enough and good enough quarterback to kind of execute those
Solid,
things. But
yeah.
yeah, you've kind of talked me into it here. I kind of went into this one thinking, all right, this is, payback for Wisconsin and all that. But I don't know. You might be onto something here.
Just this Pac-12, man.
Yeah,
It's just
it's the
loaded,
year,
and we're
man.
talking about Big Ten West team here. So yeah, I'm going Wazoo, and you are as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
All right.
I think it's a close game though. I will say I think there's going to be some breakdowns defensively for them, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's going to be, you face that kind of a diverse run game. It's going to be a little tough with those big splits, and it's not easy.
Yeah, I'll give a score here. I'll go Wazoo 37-28. I'll go
Okay,
around there.
that's
And
fair. I could see maybe even a little higher, but yeah, I could see. That's about
I
right.
was thinking a little higher, and then like the whole clock situation and just
True.
the absurdity of commercials now. Auburn Cal's up next. You just give me Cal. That's all I'm gonna say. Jaden, not one of the most exciting players in the country.
I'll go against you here because I want to rep. First of all, I can't just keep doing the
No, we
same as you
can't.
type thing.
We either go like 1-9 or 9-1 if you pick Cal.
Yeah, I'll go Auburn here. I'm a big fan of DJ James. I think he's a good player. I like enough of their talent, I would say, to think that there's a chance they win this, and Martyr at wide receiver and a few other guys. So they got enough from the transfer portal, I think, to kind of fill some of the issues that they had before, and they have another quarter. Jalen Simpson, I think, is a pretty good player as well. I mean, both guys are long and lean, but I could see that combo working pretty well in this, and maybe slowing down some of those big plays that Cal flashed last week. So I'll take Auburn and go the other way.
All right. Well, those are our game picks. Did some player focus, some NFL draft players to watch, whether it be 2024, 2027 for some reason. Yeah, just thank y'all for listening and watching. Really appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe, comment below. I don't know what NFL prospects you're looking to see rise up the board. Who you got weighing this week, most over 8 teams, under 8 teams, etc. And yeah, thank y'all for watching. See you.